Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne with Back to Earth Creations, and in this video I want to show you how to make this very easy, very quick little bead charm that we're going to be using ball pins and check glass leaf charms that I have gotten from Potomac Beads, but you could use any sort of front to back drilled charm or teardrop even, or anything that's kind of roughly this concept from like here up. So regardless of what the shape is, you can still do this with a head pin, and I do recommend something at least, let's see how long this is. So our head pin that we're going to be using, or ball pin rather, is 40 millimeters, as you can see there. I don't think I'd push it by going any shorter than this because at least for me it's like I don't have much extra at all. And so let's go ahead and get into it. Now I'm going to be making these for earrings, but you could use them for making like shaggy loops or cha-cha bracelets, or just using them as any kind of charm if you want them hanging as like, you know, on a necklace. Or I actually really like using them as well for like counter charms in the back of a necklace, like attached to the extender chain, just as something to kind of, you know, boop, little magic happens in the details, and I love making little details. So with beads like this and these leaves where you can mirror image them from each other, that's how I like to do them for earrings. So that's how I'm going to determine which side is the front. And then we're going to begin by stringing the ball pin through, just like this. And we want to leave, like I've pulled it through right till it's flush, we want to leave about a millimeter or so. Do you see how there's that gap, that little bit of wiggle room between the bead and my pliers? And then I'm going to bend a 90-degree angle, just like that there. And then you could use a thin knitting needle, or your round nose pliers, or your mandrel pliers is what I'm going to be using, because that way I like to use the same size mandrel, which I'll just use the smallest mandrel to make this next step. Now also I want to talk a little bit about the flat nose pliers that we've used. You can see here they're quite petite, and this edge we actually ground down with a grinder to almost sharpen it into just being much thinner. So these are just regular old, I think they were like Beadalon. I don't know, they'll be linked down in the video description, but if you want to make modifications to your flat nose pliers to make it to where you can make really sharp, tight spaces like that, because sometimes some flat nose pliers, you can see like these ones here, they just have a lot of material in the way, and so that really having the petite tips makes a really big difference. But sometimes, especially if you're using very thick wire, you kind of need that extra material, but you can always grind some of it off, and I always grind from the outside, that way we still have a nice flush face of where the jaws are meeting together. So that being said, let's take the smallest mandrel, you know, the smallest segment on our mandrel pliers, and I am just going to wrap around. And now you can see here on this one I wrapped with the wire coming off to the right, and since this one's going to be mirror imaged of it, I'm going to wrap it where the wire is coming off to the left of the little ball of our ball pin. So this is where that little bit of wiggle room that we had given ourselves comes into play, because that is where we are going to start fitting our wire just nice and snug. And you may want to use, we could go ahead and use our flat nose pliers to hold on here, just to, you know, I can get a much firmer and more secure grip with less effort if I just use my tools. So just bringing this around a little tighter, and once we get it started, it's going to be a lot easier to bring it across. And it might be a little fiddly. I'm doing this through watching through the camera lens so that I actually stay in frame. But I'm just grabbing towards the end of the wire, and then you can see we've shaped that around. And now we could continue holding, but I am just bringing this wire up and around. I prefer to use my fingers really to just kind of smush everything, building that spiral. And now I'm going to use my bent nose pliers here because they give me a nice range of control. And I'm going to come in and grip this just like so, just holding everything. And I just want to bring this around a little more. There we are. And again, that bead's going to keep wiggling. That's okay. And then using our round nose pliers, we're going to grasp, and you see what I mean, like I haven't snipped any off and it is very short, but I am going to just grab this tip here as close to the tip of the pliers and as close to the tip of the wire as I can. It's okay if it slides off, just reposition it. And then I'm going to start making just a little bit of a hook as we shape around, and then I'm going to come in a little bit deeper from the tip. If you can see where I'm holding the wire now, I was holding it here. So now I'm just coming in and holding a little farther up and bending around again. And so that's going to get us that little bit of that shape there. And so from here, we're going to need to bend it just a little further in still. And this can be real tricky. So if we started with a 2-inch head pin, this would be a lot easier, just because we'd have just a little bit more material to be working with. So I'm bracing. I have like it pinched between my middle finger and thumb, and then I'm bracing this top loop with my first finger. And we're going to come in and we are just going to smush that shut, and this might get a little tricky, and I find the wire wants to pop out the tip, like this side of my pliers. Very rarely will the piece push itself deeper into the pliers, and so that's why I'm angling this way, because if I had come in from this side and tried to do it, then to start with, it tends to like slip out. So sometimes just little changes, like which direction you're inserting the piece into your pliers, or how you're squeezing, can really get you different results. And so that is how we make the little charm, and you can see it's got a really nice movement to it, which for earrings is wonderful. And the way that I would utilize these is I would just take these are 18 gauge 1/8 inch copper chainmail rings, and I would just take it and open it up just like that and just hook it through, and we could then attach this to a chain, or we could take it and we could attach it. Ooh, I'm actually going to use, oh, I only have one of them. Okay, well, let's pretend like I had two for a moment. So we're going to put that through that ring, we're going to close it, and then we're going to take 2 more rings. I hope these are large enough. Sometimes the inner diameter gets a little too snug, but I'm going to open it and hook it through the one ring we've already added, and then hook it through. I don't tend to use toggle clasps for actual like clasps, but I love them for like this piece here, making them into an earring component. And so I've just opened it and I'm hooking through the toggle loop, and whoop, that's just my plier slipping. That happens, it's okay. Typically if that happens, it's because I didn't get enough of the piece into the jaws of my pliers. And all the tools and materials that I'm using, by the way, are down in the video description. So if you're just getting started into jewelry and you're looking into tools and stuff, hopefully that'll be helpful to get you started shopping. But yeah, so from there, that is, we would attach the ear hook up here, possibly with just another jump ring, and I think that makes such a really cute little nice and dangly earring design, or as a pendant, or all sorts of stuff. Now you can see here, I would actually choose to go with a larger ring to attach in place of those two rings, because you can see here how that's all kind of crowded. That's less than ideal for me. So what I may actually do, because I'm going to be using a surgical steel ear hook, is I'm going to go up a ring size. Let me go find some rings. Okay, so these are 18 gauge 3/16 inch rings, and I know that it drives some folks just up the wall whenever I do mixed metal tones like this, but I absolutely love the look of it, and it lets me sneak in being able to use my favorite, you know, nickel-free surgical steel ear hooks. So that way I'm not having to hand make a whole bunch of ear hooks, because that is the route that I would take if I were doing this and wanted it all to be copper toned, is I would use some 20 gauge antique copper para wire, which would match this just perfectly. And then I'd make an ear hook, and we actually have a tutorial on making a whole bunch of your own ear hook styles in our masterclass wire wrapping series, and so you can check that out. There should be something popping up here on the screen, or links down in the video description to take you to where you can learn to make your own ear hooks. But if you're wanting something just quick and easy and using pre-made components, and that's when I whip out my silver rings to make it match. So there you can see that gives us so much more space than whenever we were using the copper rings to join. And so now from there, I'm going to open this up. And I do have another one of these just somewhere, because I still have both of the ends. And so I was going to make, I'll show you guys in another video what I'm going to be doing with those, because I think it's going to be some really cute earrings as well. So just coming through, and I just opened up the loop on our ear hook just as though it were a jump ring, and then we're just closing it back. And then I like to use these little silicone rubber ear backs. And that's one of them. But pretend with me for a moment like we had made the second one. And wouldn't that just be the cutest pair of earrings? And then also you can just totally go this route as well, where you just open up one jump ring and join them together. This is a great way to utilize some fancier looking jump rings, like if they're made out of a square wire or a twisted wire. So you could go an even simpler route as well. Sorry, I got my pinky stuck in the tongs like when I was cooking, and so it's like a little pinched mark, but yeah, so that is how you can make your own little bead charms using just a bead and a ball pin. So if you guys have any questions, comments, or ideas, leave them down below in the comment area. I love hearing from y'all. If you enjoy our free tutorials and want to support the creation of more of them, you know, as well as participate in our behind the scenes content and after parties and 20% off coupon to our shop at backtoearthcreations.com, please consider becoming a YouTube channel member or joining our Happy Crafter Club. Links to all of that stuff are down in the video description, and I will see y'all next time. So until then, you guys, happy crafting. Mwah. Bye.